Hello and welcome inside the Moss Arts Center for another episode of 3304 Tip-Off. My name is Shakir Jan Muhammad. I'm joined by Shelton Moss, and we have Andy Losi and Aiden Butler as well. We'll hear from those two a little bit later. But Shelton, normally we'd be talking about the Saturday game on Virginia Tech's schedule. That would have been Virginia Tech and Louisville playing inside Cassell Coliseum. Not the case anymore.
That's right. The Hokies game against Louisville was postponed to March 3rd due to COVID issues within Louisville's program. And really, this has been a problem for ACC teams throughout the course of the season. We've seen Boston College take a pause, Virginia, Louisville, lots of teams. And it's really hard to get into a rhythm as a program when you're canceling games, you're not having practices. So we'll see how it all plays out. I think in this coming stretch, we're going to have some really good games in the next couple of weeks to see who can get that top spot in the ACC. Because if you look at it 1 through 5, lots of really good but not great teams. So it should be a pretty fun end to the season.
Yeah, we're getting really close now to the NCAA tournament. And a lot of these bubble teams are trying to make their way in. We have 3 teams from the ACC inside the top 25, UVA at 8, FSU at 17, Virginia Tech at 18. But we have a couple of bubble teams out there as well who we typically wouldn't see as bubble teams.
Right, you got UNC. Now, they obviously had a bad season last year, but this year, they've been much better. And you also look at Clemson. You got teams like Duke. They're still trying to fight their way into it. So lots of teams on the bubble. And right now, I don't know if there's any real locks to make the tournament. Now you got UVA at the top, obviously Florida State. But there's just so many good teams that are still trying to fight to get a position in the NCAA tournament. So lots of teams that could potentially make a big run in March.
Well, UNC is a mainstay usually in the NCAA tournament. They're sitting right now at number 10, but they have a couple ways out and a couple ways to get themselves up a little bit higher in that. Andy Losi has more on what UNC needs to do to finish this season strong and get back to form.
That's right, guys. Imagine an NCAA tournament without the North Carolina Tar Heels. Last year, they looked like they weren't going to be dancing, but after the NCAA tournament was canceled, they were saved from a year of disappointment. Now, they're on the bubble and looking to get into this season's tournament. This is a team that's ranked 5th in the ACC with a 7-4 conference record and are ranked 54th in the net rankings as of February 10th. This is the 7th best in the ACC, and they have some quality wins but quality losses as well. Only one quad 2 loss to the NC State Wolfpack. What matters the most for the North Carolina Tar Heels are the next 3 games for this team. The next 3 include the Virginia Cavaliers on the road and then back-to-back home games against the Virginia Tech Hokies and the Louisville Cardinals. This is a team that's also 6-0 at home this year. That's only 2 teams in the ACC that have that, themselves and the Virginia Cavaliers, who are 8-0. The next 4 home games for the Tar Heels down at Chapel Hill are good ones. Virginia Tech, Louisville, Florida State, and their arch rivals of the Duke Blue Devils. These are opportunities for the North Carolina Tar Heels to get on the right side of the bubble and be dancing in Indianapolis.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, UNC definitely has a way to move up higher. Right now, they're sitting pretty safe at a number 10. Some other teams in the ACC, of course, set in the tournament as of right now. Virginia, FSU, Virginia Tech, Clemson, and Louisville all coming in ahead of UNC. And can you believe, look at that lineup. There's a couple of teams in there that I would not expect to be missing, one of them being Duke.
Right. I mean, people say, can you imagine an NCAA tournament without UNC? Well, could you imagine one without Duke? The Blue Devils have had some uncharacteristic struggles this season. They're still a pretty young team, and we'll see if Coach K can sort of right the ship in a few weeks. We know that they are a team that is very talented, but they just have to find that right chemistry to get things going. Now, a couple other teams I look at on the bubble. Syracuse is a team I feel like people sleep on a little bit. They're kind of inconsistent. They had a big 17-point loss to Clemson a few days back, but they came back and beat NC State. So you look at that 3-headed monster with Elijah Hughes, Buddy Boeheim, and Joseph Girard, 3 very talented guards. I really like that roster. And then, of course, Georgia Tech, a team that really started off the season poorly. They're sort of starting to pick up momentum and play well at the right time. And with more on the Yellow Jackets, here's Aiden Butler.
After what has been a very interesting season, a very interesting team has been quietly ruffling some feathers in the middle of the ACC. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, who went from a postseason ban last season to even struggling early on this year against Georgia State and Mercer early on, has been quietly gaining some traction in the middle of the ACC. Georgia Tech currently sits at number 9 in the ACC standings with a record of 9-7, but they have marked some big wins over number 17 Florida State last week and wins over Clemson and UNC. And Georgia Tech, one of the better home teams in the ACC, they currently sit at 5-1. Their very first home loss of the season coming Wednesday night against the UVA Cavaliers. But their big issue is they are 0-4 in the ACC on the road. And that's going to be a big challenge for the Yellow Jackets coming up as they split their final 8 regular season games, 4 at home, 4 on the road. And one of them against their only ranked opponent remaining this year, number 18 Virginia Tech. And a big key for Georgia Tech, if they want to really upset some of the top-tier teams in the ACC, is going to be Jose Alvarado, a big candidate for the sixth man of the ACC this year. Alvarado currently averaging nearly 37 minutes per game, over 50% shooting the ball. But can this potential be sustained? Georgia Tech currently 69 in offensive efficiency in the country, but 192 in defense. So certainly some things to work out, but if Georgia Tech stays the course, I believe they could be a solid dark horse candidate for the NCAA tournament this year.
Well, I expect there could be a lot of shakeups as we enter the final half of the season. The standings currently, as we look at them, UVA sitting atop, FSU and Virginia Tech at that 2 and 3 spot shortly after, and Louisville at 4. And we could see some more shakeups in that upper echelon specifically. We've got some good top-notch games this weekend.
That's right. It's really so condensed when you look at those 1 through 5 spots in this league. A couple of matchups I'm looking forward to over the coming week. First, you got UNC taking on Virginia in Charlottesville. That's going to be a big matchup, assuming that that game is played, which is not a guarantee. And then on Monday, you got UVA taking on Florida State, that 1-2 matchup, a big opportunity for the Seminoles to get a win. And, of course, we know how difficult the Seminoles are to beat at home. And then on Tuesday, Virginia Tech going on the road where they have struggled a bit to take on UNC in Chapel Hill. Another big-time opportunity for UNC and really Tech, for that matter, to get a big resume-boosting win and prove to the NCAA selection committee that they belong in the Big Dance. So lots to be determined, and certainly for teams this week is very critical to booster your NCAA tournament hopes.
Well, unfortunately, even though we won't get to see Louisville and Virginia Tech, we do get to see both of these two teams this weekend with all of that other ACC basketball. But that's going to wrap up our episode of 3304 Tip-Off. My name is Shakir Jan Mohammed. I was joined by Shelton Moss and Andy Losi and Aiden Butler. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.